All right, looks like we're recording. So, folks, just thank you so much for coming. Um, this right here is a very special episode. Here I have the Top Gun instructor cadre over here at Top Gun Memphis. All of these guys are instructors, except for one, except for Bobby. But but we're all Top Gun instructors here. And an interesting topic came up in my life. It came up about a little bit more than a month ago, a little bit more than that. I welcomed my son into the world about a month ago, and it has me wondering about certain topics about firearms. And I figured this would be a good opportunity to get some answers. So, before we get started, let's go ahead and meet everybody. If you wouldn't mind saying a little bit about yourself and what you do here at Top Gun, and let's go ahead and start with Martin, if you wouldn't mind.
Great. Thank you, Mikos. My name is Martin Hofert, and I am one of the Top Gun instructors. Uh, was asked by Will when we first opened Top Gun to be one of the instructors. It's quite an honor. I really appreciate it. Worked with Tom Givens down on Mendon Hall at the Range Master store for about 5 years. Worked behind the counter selling guns and classes and so on and so forth. And presently, I'm the match director at the TACCON. This will be my 14th event this year.
Man, that's outstanding. So by TACCON, we're talking about the Range Master Tactical Conference. I think this is what, like the 22nd, 23rd year?
Uh,
It's past 25, I think.
yeah, I think we've already passed 25.
It's in the low 20s.
Yeah.
Right on. And let's go to JD. JD, let's hear a little bit about you.
Yeah, my name is JD. Haven't been around too long, but I have the great pleasure of joining these guys and learning from these guys. Right now, I mainly do some of the most exhilarating enhanced carry permit classes offered at Top Gun, other than Will Dugan, because, it's Will. Um, but yeah, I'm just here to learn and grow and come up under the decades, maybe centuries of knowledge that these guys have.
So, a couple of weeks ago, it might even be a couple months ago at this point, um, I sat in on JD's the state of Tennessee permit class, and he one thing that I do with just every once in a while, I'll sit in on an introductory class. If you want to be a better shooter, you go to an advanced class, but if you want to be a better teacher, you go to an introductory class. And there was a lot that I learned from JD, just his demeanor, the way he was with people. It was very chill. So the dude's a good teacher. You need to go train with him. And so let's hear from Lee. Lee, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, and thanks for having me as part of this. Yeah, I've been part of this group for what, going on 2 years, I guess, maybe. I did military ranges and for the scouts and stuff like that. So I had done that, and when I got the opportunity to actually come and teach with these guys, I'd had a couple of classes with some of them, and it was just amazing. And so getting the opportunity to come and to just be part of this has been awesome. I mean, I learned something every time I'm around them, and so glad all you guys are here, and you're in for a treat.
Just recently retired from the Navy, right? How many years?
22 and a half.
Man, God bless you. God bless you. All right, Bobby, you're up.
I'm Bobby. I'm pretty sure I'm the only one here who's not a full-blown instructor at Top Gun, and I'm also not a father yet. My son's coming. Yeah, he'll be here in May. But I've been an assistant instructor before up at Range Master with Tom before the range shut down in 2014 while I was away at basic training. I was in AIT by then, but I'm still kind of salty about that. I wanted to be an instructor, but whatever. You still see me buzzing around the range. Just occasionally I'll help out with class, and I need to get my certifications re-upped. But you'll see me around there helping out every now and then.
Yeah, Army veteran, right? How many years are you serving?
I hesitate to use the word veteran. I was National Guard. I never deployed. It was 6 years. I just, play hero 1 weekend a month for 6 years, plus summer camp for 2 weeks out of the year. So I never got activated to any natural disaster or anything. So, I mean, yeah, I was in the Army for 6 years, but that's about as much as I can claim.
Still very humble. Like, thanks a bunch. So, Will, you're up.
Well, my name is Will Dugan, and I'm the Director of Training or Chief Instructor at Top Gun. I started my teaching career at on the Mendenhall Range, 2611 South Mendenhall, Range Master, where I taught for Tom for about a decade, including becoming eventually a lead instructor for him. And then after that, all kind of, as it was tailing out, we opened a small school down in the greater Columbus, Mississippi area, Golden Triangle Defensive Tactics, which is still semi-functional, but mostly we've rolled our efforts into Top Gun in Memphis, Tennessee, where I've been in charge for, I think, 3 years now. That sounds right, 3 years. Yep.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
It was 3 years last fall.
Yeah, so 20 years all told. 3 years at being in charge at Top Gun.
So if it makes any sense, if it fills in any gaps about the level of esteem that I have for Will Dugan, I consider myself an apprentice. Okay. I've trained with a lot of people. I'm talking like last year, over 300 hours of training. A lot of that was instructor development programs. And I've been through a couple of development programs, but I still consider myself an apprentice of Will Dugan. So if that's the pecking order, then there you go. So Ray, let's hear from you. How's it going today?
It's going well, thank you. So my name is Ray Janso. Out of this group, I'm the newest member. As far as instructors go, and instructing in general, I just became an instructor last June. So just about, 8 months now of instructing, and very honored to have been asked to join the cadre of instructors at Top Gun after graduating from the Range Master basic instructor course. Had been a customer at Top Gun prior to that, and had gotten to know just about everybody on the screen through taking classes with them and traveling to TACON. So it's a great, not only a cadre, but a great family, great brotherhood that really is inviting. And we see that spill over into the students, with what we exude out to the students as well. So absolutely just tickled pink to not only be a part of the group, but to be asked to join this presentation and provide some input.
Absolutely. Yeah. So those of us that have kids, how old are they? And kids and grandkids that visit often. I got a 1-month-old. Anybody else? Come on,
I've got a 22-year-old daughter and an 18-year-old son.
22 and 18. Okay.
I got a 23-year-old and a 20-year-old son.
23 and 20. Okay.
I've got a 43-year-old son and a 32-year-old son and 6 grandkids.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. How old are the grandkids, if you don't mind me asking?
There's 6 of them. The oldest is 12, and they range about every other year all the way down to age 4.
Oh, man. How about you, JD?
I have 3 kids. One's 7, about to be 8, 5, and 18 months old.
Dude, you're going to win the award for best audio. How about you, Will?
We have 3 kids, 22, 20, and almost 15.
Okay. And so, Bobby, I know you're expecting, we have a due date yet?
May 24th, the last I heard. That's subject to May 23rd? Okay, May 23rd. So that's subject to shifting dates. My wife doesn't entirely agree with the date that they told her about, but somewhere around in there.
It's a good date. That was my mother's birthday.
Yay!
All right.
Nice.
All right. So I think we're ready for our first question. Is a question that I have, right? And it's where and how do you store firearms with kids in the home? I know that when I'm single, before the 1-year-old came along, like something like this, just your basic Glock in the holster on the nightstand, that would be how we slept all night. I didn't really see a problem with that until now. And, that changes when we leave the house. When we leave the house, everything gets locked up. It gets stored into the big safe that's bolted to the wall and to the floor. And, that's how it is. So, like, that changes now. And I'm not really certain. I know you guys have some really good ideas, so I want to hear it.
Sure. Well, when my boys were at the house, everything was locked up. I've got 2 safes. One's a large one for the long guns. The only one that is not in that safe is my shotgun, and that's in cruiser ready in the closet, locked up, but not in the safe. I went to Costco and bought a Sentry safe. It's 2.5 square foot safe. That's where the handguns go at night. Get up in the morning, I put my gun on my belt. When I go to bed, I take it off, I put it in the safe. When the boys moved out, I had no problem leaving the gun laying on the nightstand, just like you said. However, now I've got 6 grandkids, and they're smart little buggers, but I'm not going to test them. We definitely talk about gun safety to the level of their ability. The 9-year-old boy is more curious than the older girls. But like I told my daughter-in-law, they're getting ready for sleepovers. What happens if the gun comes out? They have to know what to do. And, I share this with a lot of my classes, and the first thing I hear is, how can you lock up your gun at night? How do you get at it? Well, the fact is, I practice my safe the same way I practice my gun. I know how long it'll take me to get that safe open. I know I can do it in low light, no glasses, with glasses. It's not a problem. The consequence is too high to leave a gun laying around when there's kids here. And again, I never know when they're going to come over. I'm going to have 3 of them Sunday night because they don't go to school Monday. But other than that, they just show up.
So when the grandkids come over, everything gets locked up. And
it's either on me, and 2 of them love to come up and touch my hip, see if it's on there. The rest, but if it's not on me, it's in the safe. It's not laying on the table or my desk, or like my wife says, you can't remember where your car keys are half the time. How can you remember where that gun is? So.
No safer place than on you. Anybody else?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Different places. Oh, go ahead, Ray.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, JD. You got it.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Ray's first.
Ray's first?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Ray
That's fine.
spoke up first.
He does have the better audio. I'm actually, drawn by that. So yeah, for me, I didn't have a full-size safe until just a couple of years ago. So what I was doing before then, of course, we did always keep it locked up. Same as Martin, if it wasn't on me, it was always in something. So initially, for my 2 shotguns, I had the shot lock that you could mount to the stud of a wall, and it would lock in to where you couldn't access the trigger. And so that would be locked up in the closet. For the handguns, I just had 2 at the time for the most part, and each one of those were in a gun vault, mini vault bedside, either in the nightstand or underneath the bed. So it was tethered with a lock, and also very easy access, no light, low light, whatever, with a tactile programmable finger punch key. So very easy to get to them when you needed to. When I went to a full-size safe a couple of years ago, as my collection of ammunition and firearms started to grow just a little bit, I ended up going with the Liberty safe, an entry-level Liberty. And so that's where everything except for the go-to gun is stored. Since my kids are older now, not as much of a concern as far as them accessing it. My daughter has taken the permit class and has shot with me quite a bit. My son just doesn't have any interest in it. I do expose him to it. He does know what to do and what not to do with it, and basically he's not going to touch it. So we have that built in. But if there's ever a concern, I still have those mini vaults at the bedside if I needed to throw one in if somebody were to come over to visit that we needed to restrict access, or I've got the full size safe. So definitely options, and I think as we go around, we'll find out. There's definitely different options out there, and you just got to find what fits for you. But the overriding factor is keeping it secured so that people you don't want to get it. So that's about what it comes down to.
JD, what about you?
I have several different options. Obviously, I have whatever the biggest cannon safe that they sell at Tractor Supply, like the $700 special that I keep all the long guns and shotguns and the pistols that I'm not shooting for the most part, locked up in there. And then I do have a 12 gauge next to the bed, but it has stop box cells, something that goes inside the chamber. You have to push 3 or 4 different fingers down to be able to pull that out in order to even chamber around. I have the same thing for the AR, but that's usually in the safe. I have another thing from this company called Starbox. It's just a little black box. It's got little buttons on the top and a side button, so you have to put in a certain, hold down certain fingers all at once to get it open, but it's quick. So when I come home and if I'm not keeping it on me at the house, I can stick it in that. And it's got coffee rings on top of it because sometimes it stays next to on the nightstand. And then my fourth option is I built myself and my wife nightstands that I call them the Resolute nightstand. Basically, you have to open the bottom drawer a certain amount of distance, and there's a secret top drawer that's released by a piece of wood and a cantilever that's stopped by a long screw that then you can get the top drawer open. And I have a couple in there also. But I mean, that's where I keep them. I do have one that's kind of way up, somewhere in the upstairs. Another 12 gauge staged by the back door. God forbid something happens in the middle of the day. But kids can't get to that, and it's, if people come over, I put it up. So.
Okay, man, good answers. Good answers. Let's go to another question. What do you guys look for in quick access safes? I've seen some that look like alarm clocks. I've seen some where, if someone goes into my bedroom, they would 100% identify that is where the gun is. Is that something that you guys look for, or how do y'all feel about that?
Well, that little Sentry safe I bought, I've got it programmed. It only takes 4 numbers. As soon as I put my hand in front of it, it lights up. And it's also in a closet. The key to the closet stays with me. The grandkids don't ever have access to the key either. In fact, a while back, my wife says, you better go check your granddaughter. She's got your car keys trying to get into the closet. They know something's in there, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I just don't want them to get access on it. At their age, the older ones can make decisions, the younger ones cannot.
So I wasn't too worried about looks as far as mine went. It was in our bedroom, so it was more of functionality, what would fit either in the nightstand or under the bed, what was easy to get to without having to turn the light on. Same thing, 4-number programmable sequence. It has the Braille type raised bed, so if you're on 1, 2, 3, or 4, so you can manipulate it pretty easily. For the full size safe, just a quick, easy keypad that does light up if I've got to get to it for the shotguns. But bedside, I think it was out of sight, but it wasn't. They're a little bit bulky, but it was functional. That's what I wanted, was functional for that quick access.
Very cool.
For a lot of years, I used a simple strong box. I've had both the digital ones. I've never found the thumb ones to be real effective, with a little bio reader. Never found those to be super effective. I like the mechanical ones better than the electronic ones, generally speaking. But over the last couple of years, I've fallen in love with the Hornady Night Guard. I'm not real concerned about people walking into my house and seeing a gun safe. That doesn't bother me. But there are lots of nights that I'm not here, and so I try to keep it as low profile as I can. Not because of my children, but because of we live in greater Memphis and we have to deal with crime and criminality. So I'd rather not someone be able to take my pistol. So the night guard does a good job of disguising the pistol and keeping it pretty darn secure. Um, uh, like earlier, they talked about years ago, I still have safes. I don't so much use them anymore, except for storing ammunition in bulk. I've the last couple houses I've created rooms for guns with limited access and low visibility.
That makes a lot of sense. So, anybody
Like
else?
if they're going to be digital, I like it to also have a key. Like
Agreed.
I just wanted to have both because batteries die, stuff happens, and then in my head, I've had a lot of trauma, and like for me, it's like the worst case scenario is going to happen when I need it the most, and the batteries are going to be dead. So
Right.
that's it.
Well,
Yeah.
the Hornaday has the really neat advantage of being both. It is digital, but it plugs in and has a battery backup. If you put in like good lithium batteries, you're not going to have alkaline battery corrosion and explosion.
Man, good stuff.
And
I'm already learning a ton.
it does
Already.
work on a key.
Okay.
And they're on sale right now at Midway for $199.99. So
I'm gonna write that down. Let's go to another question. This is a question that I have personally. So do you store guns around the home? And before the 1-year-old, I did. And right now he's not moving around too much. Like if you put him in a bassinet, he's not going anywhere. But it makes me wonder, is he gonna get into stuff? So do you guys stage guns around the home?
I do.
I did when the boys moved out. I had no problem with it. But now with so many little kids coming and going, I don't have a place to store guns when they're not here, a place to store them when they're here, a place for 3 of them when they're here. I only have 2 places, either on me or in the safe.
Like JD, I had furniture built. So there's pieces of furniture around the house that store firearms that are not observable. They're not secure in the sense that there's not a padlock holding it in place, but they are certainly low profile. And the kids don't. Well, when the children were little, they didn't know they were there. As they aged, I let them in on where they were because they became competent with firearms, so that was okay. But yeah, I have them staged strategically throughout the house, but not laying around. They are certainly placed um, in positions where the children can't find them because they are hidden within pieces of furniture designed for that.
I never have, but I have considered doing the furniture hiding places, and I may one day, but now I just tend to carry it. So
Yeah, that's about where I am right now. I'm really of the mindset of, I don't know. Like right now, the kids aren't getting into anything. Until I figure something out or until I can afford something, I'll probably just carry it on me. So
Now, when my kids were younger and the kind of middle age, when they're little bitty, I was not real concerned about much. Like Miko's here's 1 month old, I wasn't concerned about much. But when they began in those years where they tend to want to explore and look and do, uh, rather than staging firearms, I also stage pepper spray.
mm,
That house we raised our children in had transoms above all the doors. So that's about 7 feet off the ground. And I'd put a can of pepper spray at the top of each transom. So if the kids got one, it'd be highly memorable for them. But they would remember it. We have a real fun story when they get married or graduate.
that's awesome. All righty. So let's go on to our next question.
Okay.
Yeah. JD.
No, I was just gonna say I have 3 small kids, and I do store guns around the house, but they're not really accessible. And I had, yeah, I mean, I keep them around, but they're not they're all safe, but they're not all necessarily locked up.
Yeah. That makes
But
sense.
I live a little closer in proximity to crime or the potentiality of crime than maybe somebody, I maybe that's, thinking you live in a safe neighborhood's a false sense of security, but statistically I'm a little bit closer than some people.
Yeah. I think that's more of an individual, like household type of thing. Like just kind of weigh the risk with the benefit. Um, and so that brings me to my next question, right? So my next question is this one. Of course, I'm concerned about, okay, at a certain age, I'm gonna have to educate my kids about guns. Um, this may not necessarily be an age specific question. It's always more about maturity. But how do you know that your kids are ready for that conversation?
Oh
Generally,
man,
by
you
the
know when
questions I start asking. I'm sorry,
The
go ahead.
questions they start asking.
yeah, well, when mine were first born, my wife was not real hip on the idea of them learning about guns. She didn't want them to have toy guns or anything like that. She wanted to wait till they were older. And then one of my early deployments, they came to see me off, and I'm walking around with M16 slung on me, and which of course got my older, my 3-year-old's attention. And at that point, we made the decision that it was a good time to really start talking to him about firearms and safety, and what are dad's guns versus what's a toy gun, and what do you. And of course, we, as they got older, we went through the Eddie Eagle and all that stuff about, what you do if you come across a gun. But yeah, once he saw it, it was, kind of unavoidable at that point.
Yeah, that makes sense. So basically, when he saw it, that was when you had to basically call a timeout and say, okay, let's talk about this for a second. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think the
Yeah.
kids will lead you into what they want to know and how you want to teach the safety to them. My 8-year-old grandson I've had up at the range, I taught him how to shoot the Model 74-22 that I learned how to shoot at that age. He's more curious and probably a little more mature than the 12-year-old girl who really has no interest. But I've exposed it to her because now they're having sleepovers. I think it's very important to give them the knowledge of what to do. And that Eddie the Eagle program is excellent for that sort of thing.
I started with my kids on their second day of life. Literally on the ride home from the hospital, we started talking about the rules. Well, I started talking about the rules. They mostly listened at that point. Ultimately, I've made it part of the fabric of who they are. And none of my kids are gun enthusiasts. None of them, like their old man, love them and collect them and cherish them. But they certainly know how to handle one safely. They know how to shoot one safely. They can clear it. You could call them at any time of the day or night and ask them the full rules. They can tell you, and they know that they are to be strictly enforced, not only by me, but even by them. But no, I started on day 2 of life.
As young as
Right
well.
on.
But I remember my kid was like 16 months old, and I took this picture of him. I got him a wood gun called a sturdy gun. And here he is, about 16 months old, carrying this flat plywood routed out AR-15 around the house. He was just interested in it, you know. So my oldest has been my rule follower, and I've, there was a quote from Chris Kyle, and it kind of changed my life one day, and I looked it up just so I could not misquote him. But he said that my theory is that kids get into trouble because of curiosity, and if you don't satisfy it, you're asking for big problems. And if you inform them and carefully instruct them on safety when they're young, you avoid a lot of trouble. My son has learned to respect weapons. I've always told him, if you want to use a gun, come get me. There's nothing I like doing better than shooting guns. So
I agree
I was just
wholeheartedly.
like, so.
We took the mystery. I took the mystery away from it. There's nothing, my
Right.
kids look at firearms like your kids look at spoons. It's just something that they see and experience, and they have no real love nor hate of spoons. They They see them as useful, but they don't, oh boy, a spoon. But by the same token, if they see a firearm, there's just a gun to them. It's no different than seeing a tool or a screwdriver. It doesn't bother them at all. Because again, starting them so young, there was no mystery. And my logic was firearms are ubiquitous within our society. If not in my society, they're ubiquitous within the Americana society. And they're going to engage one, they're going to encounter one at some point. If not in my house, then they'll encounter it at somebody else's house. If not someone else's house, they're going to encounter one at school or on the street. Or even my job as dad is not done just because they turned 18. They're going to see one at 25 in someone else's house. And if I have not prepared them for that, I've kind of fallen down on my job as dad. So my goal was to remove the mystery where they see it just like any other tool or gadget. It's just a gun.
Yeah, that's probably the best advice that I think I've ever gotten with firearms. Just remove the mystique,
Yeah.
remove the taboo from it. So when we talk about kids with firearms, what safety rules do you use? Do you use the Eddie the Eagle for safety rules? I think his were stop, don't touch, run away, tell a grown up, right?
Leave the area
Absolutely
till an
not.
adult.
Or did you teach the Colonel Jeff Cooper's 4 safety rules?
I taught Cooper's rules. I didn't want them to stop, don't touch. I wanted them as soon as they could learn how, that if there's one around, they knew what it was and they knew how to handle it. Now, there was a time in their lives when they understood that if you touch a firearm without coming to me, without talking to me about it, that there were massive penalties for that, substantial penalties for that. But once they became able to understand and physically actually do it, I wanted them to learn how to handle one, how to clear it, how to manipulate it, how to hold it safely. So it was a 2-step process. Number one, do not touch it unless I'm around, unless you ask me first, unless we are together. But once they graduated past that, I wanted them as soon as they could learn how to handle it safely, because I'm not always going to be here.
Outstanding. Did anybody use the Eddie the Eagle 4 safety rules, or did you hear of anybody else that used them? How effective were they?
Well, I
kids
introduced the
came-
grandkids to it. I think they're simple rules that they can get their friends to understand. The example I use is a sleepover. I think they can get their friends to understand that one. However, when we handle guns, either at the house or when I go up to the range, I use Cooper rules. When I was explaining them to my grandson, I wasn't really sure that he was paying attention to me, but on the way up to the range, I said, all right, tell me what the 4 rules are. And he just looked up from his laptop and rattled them off just like it was no big deal. So they're a lot smarter than you think they are.
My kids learned the stop, don't touch, leave the area. They learned that in school. They come home from kindergarten telling me, Dad, let me tell you what we learned in school today about guns. And I thought that was cool that the public school was teaching them that. They learned it. It's easy to learn, but I think from this, for me, for this point forward, Cooper's rules are just, pretty universal. And I'm just sticking with that.
Yeah,
Back in the day, they used to teach.
I wanted them to learn Cooper's rules so that they could, handle them properly and safely and all that. But then they had Eagle rules. That was more of if you come across a gun without an adult there, especially if you're at someone else's house, I didn't want them going, oh, I know how to handle this, and picking it up. So we kind of did a little bit of it. And the same thing, they came home from school and had gone through it. And then we talked about, you don't touch the guns unless there's an adult with you. And so we kind of did a little combo of that.
Okay. Like, what was it? Like back in the day, they used to teach gun safety courses in schools, almost like they used to teach like home ec and wood shop, and they don't teach that stuff anymore.
Yeah, we had a rifle team.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Everyone in my high school took hunter safety. Everyone.
That's
Wow.
where I got my
If
Times
you
have
walk through
changed.
my high school, there were gun racks in the trucks with guns in it during hunting season.
Well, we
As long
took
as
our
you didn't
guns to
stay there,
shop
it
class
was
to get them
fine.
reblued.
Yeah. And I remember when in my high school we had the same thing. There were trucks in the parking lot that had gun racks, but Columbine happened and they had to stop. So, man, that it just kind of that hit me there.
I was
Like there
gonna
was a sign. There was a sign in our high school that said no duck boots allowed in the hallways because they were sick of tracking mud.
And y'all guys are a bunch of old rednecks. I didn't have any.
Not
Alrighty.
redneck.
So-
Let's clear it up. Okay. Will knows the term.
There's a term. Yeah. All right. So here's another question. So what was your kid's first gun and how old was he or she?
I started mine on air guns, like BB guns. They were probably 5 or 6, somewhere in that ballpark, and just real short stocked, daisy lever action, so they couldn't, they didn't possess the physical strength to cock one, because those are pretty tough to cock. So in essence, is a repeater that didn't repeat. And so I could control volume of fire and all that. And after that, I bought them Kimbers. I bought them Kimber K22s. Each of my children have in the safe right now a Kimber K22 22 bolt action rifle. They also 22 of one flavor or another, Brownings mostly, 22 auto pistols.
Right on. Right on.
Yeah, mine was a Red Ryder BB gun. Same thing.
Red Ryder. There's
Mine
a
had the
Glock
Daisy
22 with my son's name on it right now. I'm sorry, a Glock 44 Chairman and 22 long rifle. So that's gonna be cool.
Yeah, I got to shoot it. And it was pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did the same thing Will did. The Daisy pellet BB gun combination. Rules were strict. We shot at targets and tin cans, never birds or squirrels. Not that I followed that rule all the time, but I made them do it. And then we introduced them to my Winchester Model 74-22 that I learned how to shoot when I was that age. But I always kept control of the gun, and it was never in their bedroom. It went back in my safe.
Yeah,
Smart
that's
little
cool.
guys, but I wasn't going to test them.
Yeah.
So I sound like I'm the outcast from this group from which you all did, but probably because of my upbringing too. I wasn't introduced by my dad formally until probably high school with a shotgun. We'd do some skeet and trap with him, but we didn't, even though he was in the Army and I knew about weapons and whatnot, it wasn't really anything introduced. So I guess carrying over with my kids, they didn't really have an interest. At least I'll speak to my daughter first. She didn't really have an interest, but the whole introduction of what to do with it, that was obviously introduced. But actually holding a gun and using a gun for her also didn't happen until high school, and then handguns as she became older. So for my son, even though he's 18, we haven't gotten there yet, other than him knowing about mine. I'll just put a little spin on that. Is my son has an intellectual and developmental disability, so we're not quite at the point where I would even feel comfortable with him, handling a weapon. So we've gotten to the point right now where he's actually helping me load my magazines. Whenever I'm taking a big class over the weekend, he'll help me load my mags up. So we're starting to get there. But whether or not we ever get him to actually holding 22 or anything like that is yet to be seen. So, but my daughter, of course, has, like I said, take the permit class, so she's getting there. But I think it's for everybody. It's going to be a little bit different. Figure out what's the dynamic for your family. What are you comfortable with? What do you want to expose them to? And what do they want to be exposed to?
Yeah, my
Yeah.
kids run around the house with Nerf guns and airsoft guns that obviously no, there's no airsoft BBs, but and they're constantly, been talked to for years. Keep your finger straight. Don't point at anything you don't want to destroy. So now they run our house with that finger high and along. And I took him out actually last weekend for the first time, and he shot at my oldest shot at 20, and my youngest shot at 22 for the first time, and he ran that bolt like he'd done it his whole life. It was amazing to see.
Man, that's awesome. Man, what do I want my kids exposed to? I want them exposed to belt fed. All right. Just oh man. So let's see. I'm sure some of you guys also have questions. Bobby, I haven't heard from you all night. I know you got questions, man.
I'm here to learn. I'm just here listening to all of this and soaking it up because all I've got to draw on really is my memories of when my dad took me through all this, and I don't have the best memory, and I'm 39. I'll be 40 in August, so it's been a minute since I was a kid, but yeah. But so I'm learning, and you guys have hit on a couple ideas that I'm probably gonna try to keep in mind coming up, like Nerf guns. I happen to marry into a family of Nerf nerds, and it's wonderful. And I love how they'll get into modding them, and we'll have wars and stuff with them. So Nerf is going to be a part of our lives forever now. I've still got my old Red Ryder BB gun at my parents' place, and it still functions amazingly. It's been in the barn for the past, I don't know, 25, 30 years, but it's rusted, but it still functions. So storing, I've got a safe, and it's kind of full, and it's upstairs, so it's nowhere near quick access. So I've got to do something about downstairs eventually, because I could stick a handgun in a drawer, and the shotgun is obviously a little difficult to manipulate right now, for kids, but that's not always going to be the case. So I'm just, whatever questions I had, you guys have pretty much already talked about.
I used to be one of those guys where, I didn't stage anything. I didn't carry anything in the home. I was just, if my plan was if somebody broke in, I was going to bolt to the safe. And, that changed after a couple of break-ins. So there was that.
I've been a weapons geek ever since I was a kid. So if there's a weapon around, I was carrying it everywhere, whether it's, my first pocket knives, and then later on, you got throwing knives and hatchets and, swords and all that fun stuff. I've been carrying them around with me. So when I got, handguns, I'm fairly certain every day I've owned a handgun, I've carried it like all day long, except when I'm away at like military stuff, but whatever. So whether I'm at home or out away from the house or whatever, I'm still fully loaded. It's part of my life. That's how I live. Just because I enjoy it. It's not because I have any real fear of anything happening or not happening or stuff. It's just that it's like putting on shoes in the morning. I put them on in the morning, I take them off at night. That's how I live. The shotgun lives next to my bed. Because shotgun much better than handgun at stopping things that go bump in the night, but that's about it. So
yeah. So I'm done with all the questions. Let's see. Is there anything else that I haven't covered? Is there anything else that dads need to know about keeping guns in the house around kids?
One thing that I will say is that never think you can outsmart your children when it comes to stuff like this. To anybody who's out there listening, these guys probably all know, but anybody out there listening, don't think you can hide a gun in something that's not secure and they won't find it. I mean, you can forget where it is. Your kids will find it. And if they don't, their friends will. So make sure that it is in, even if it's not in a safe, make sure it's in something that is locked and you control the access, because they will find it.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Now, if
We'll
you lose it,
always
they'll tell you
say-
where it is. So, there's that.
In the first 17 enhanced carry permit classes I sat in with Will, he would always say, um, you knew where your gifts were as a kid, where your parents hid them for Christmas. Your kids are going to find that gun. So,
Yeah,
Kids
makes a lot
aren't
of
dumb.
sense.
Kids aren't dumb. They're not obtuse to the world around them. Adults are filled with all sorts of thoughts that distract you from life. You think about job and work and relationships and your marriage, and you have worries and things that burden you. Kids don't have a lot of those distractions, so they are highly observant about the things that are important to them. And if Christmas is important to them, they're going to figure out where those Christmas gifts are. And if knowing where the guns are is cool and something different, then they're going to figure out where those guns are. That's all there is to it. So if you think you're going to outsmart them, um, well, you got to figure that you and your wife have donated some genetic material to them. So either they're not real bright, but that's a direct reflection on you not being real bright.
Yeah. Now, I will say that if you train them right, even if they're not, because when we grew up, not a single gun was locked up in our house. For when I was real young, they were just all in my dad's closet, and then after that, we had a gun rack on the wall. And they were just sitting in a unlocked gun rack. But we were taught from, probably before we could walk, that you don't mess with those, and we never ever touched them without parents' permission until we were old enough to actually take them out on our own and shoot them, and which we did. We took them out and hunted and all that kind of stuff. Starting in probably junior high, but until then, we knew where they were and they were easily accessible, but they weren't loaded. There weren't bullets with them, and we knew we were going to get our little behinds tore up if we touched them. So,
yeah,
Is it bad?
I'm part.
Is it bad
Go
for me
ahead,
to
Will.
admit that I knew where they were? I knew how to load them, unload them, and let's just say my dad shouldn't watch this video. I was perfectly aware where they were. They were under the bed in zippered cases, and by the time he was showing me how to do it, I already knew how to do it.
I'll say that I'm probably part of the generation, born in the '80s. Got my ears boxed on a regular basis when I messed up, but kind of shifting in from like all you play with is outside into the culture that we live in now. I will say there's a huge cultural shift. So I think instead of instilling the fear of dad in my kids, I need to scratch that itch of curiosity so that they understand, because they're more curious than ever now, because I think they're more surrounded with it than they were. Now, I know there was movies and stuff like that, but my kids are, they're playing Fortnite and they're talking, oh, get the twin mag SMG and the P90. I'm like, how do you know about all this stuff? They're curious. So for me, it's really important to teach them now and expose them and like just get them handling it. Because if not, something bad's going to happen and I'm going to feel bad.
Day 2 of life. They had a rough first day. I'll give them a pass on that day. But after that, I wanted them to understand that in my culture, in our family culture, guns are simply going to be a part of what you see on a daily basis. Dad wears one. They're in the house. They're going to be in the house. That's all there is to it. And if not in my house, they're going to be in someone's house. They're going to be everywhere you go, whether you know it or not. And I did not want to raise children who were afraid of them, who saw them as mystical or demonic. It's just a machine. And I wanted my children to have a good, solid understanding of how that machine worked, and then set them free into the world. That's my job as their dad.
Outstanding. Well, guys, I think that's a good place to call it. You know what? This was a wonderful learning opportunity for me. I'm not just sitting here placating to, create content or anything like that. These were real, no kidding, like straight up questions that I had personally as a new dad. And I'm just very thankful that I have my friends and brothers here to bounce this stuff off of. And I hope that it helps you as well. If you're watching or if you're listening to this, I just want to say thank you. you for spending your time with us. You could have spent your time doing anything with anyone, with your family, but instead you're spending it with us. And I just want to let you know how much I appreciate it. Guys, thanks for watching. If you want to train with these guys, you could find them at Top Gun Memphis in Memphis, Tennessee. You can go to TopGunMemphis.com, sign up for classes, guys. Come on in. Range is open Monday through Sunday. All right, 7 days a week. So come on in and train with us. We'd be glad to see you. We'd be honored to have your company. Folks, thanks for watching. Welcome to Memphis.